Good day. So now I will discuss to you the answers for our prelim exam. So part 1, indicate whether the normal balance of the account is debit or credit and whether the increase or decrease of said account should be debit or credit. So I already gave you an example to follow, pero since hindi nag-follow yung iba kaya maliliit yung mga scores na nakuha. So going back to our normal balances, under our debits, we have assets, drawings, and expenses. And under our credits, we have liabilities, income, and capital or equity or proprietorship. So, ito lang naman yung mga normal balances na dapat nating tandaan. Pero kung hindi nyo binasa yung mga account titles na under sa ating elements, medyo magkakaroon tayo ng problema. So, balik tayo sa ating questions. So, number 1, inventory decreased by 40,000. So, inventory is an asset. Therefore, debit ang kanyang normal balance. And kapag sinabing decrease, ibig sabihin, bumaba ng 40,000. Ibig sabihin, kapag bumaba yung asset, nandoon siya sa kanyang opposite side. So, ibig sabihin, credit. Next, number 2, accrued salaries. Accrued salaries is a liability or payable. So, nagamit na yung salaries. Nakapagtrabaho na yung ating empleyado pero hindi pa natin sila nababayaran. Kaya, yung normal balance ng liability natin is credit. And kapag nag-increase yung utang, ibig sabihin, nandun siya sa kanyang normal balance. So, credit. Next, cash increased by 8,000. So, cash is an asset, therefore debit. And since nag-increase siya, debit yung kanyang change. Number 4, equipment sold for 50,000. Equipment is an asset, therefore debit yung kanyang normal balance. Ibinenta natin siya. So, kapag binenta natin, syempre mababawasan yung ating equipment or mawawala sa atin yung equipment natin. Kaya, credit yung kanyang change. Number 5, depreciation increased by 12,000. Depreciation is an expense account. Ito yung ginagamit natin kapag yung ating asset is nagde-depreciate or bumababa yung value dahil sa passage of time, dahil sa paggamit natin, and so on. So, depreciation is an expense. Therefore, debit yung ating normal balance. And kapag nag-increase, again, yung change niya is naka-debit. 6, accounts receivable decreased by 5,000. Number 6, accounts receivable decreased by 5,000. So, accounts receivable is an asset. Therefore, yung kanyang normal balance is debit. Decreased, ibig sabihin, nilagay siya sa kanyang opposite side. So, credit. Number 7, notes receivable was collected in full. Notes receivable, again, is an asset. Therefore, debit. Pero, nakolekta na daw siya. Ibig sabihin, magdi-decrease na yung kanyang value. So, credit yung kanyang change. Number 8, rent expense decreased by 1,500. So, rent expense is an expense account. So, debit. Pag nag-decrease siya, ibig sabihin, nilagay siya sa kanyang opposite side, credit. Number 9, gain on sale of equipment. So, gain on sale, ibig sabihin, nagbenta ka na equipment, may ginansya or merong profit doon sa pagbenta mo. So, gain is an income account. So, yung normal balance natin dyan is credit. And yung kanyang change, since nagkaroon tayo ng gain, is credit. 10, furniture was acquired for 20,000. So, furniture is an asset account. Therefore, normal balance niya is debit. And in-acquire natin siya. Ibig sabihin, binili natin yung furniture. So, kapag ganun, nag-increase yung ating asset account. Therefore, yung change natin is debit. Problem solving number 1. The business was put up from a cash of 100,000, the initial of the owner. Then 20,000 of the cash was used to purchase an equipment to be used in business. The purchase of equipment resulted in a liability of 10,000. How much are the total assets of the business? Okay, so ang question daw is, how much are the total assets? So sabi dito sa ating problem na nagkaroon daw si owner ng kanyang initial investment of 100,000. So for equity, we have 100. At the same time, nag-invest ng cash of 100,000. Next, sabi din dito, 20% daw ng cash ginamit sa pag-purchase ng equipment. So kapag nag-purchase tayo ng equipment, mababawasan yung asset natin by 20,000 of cash. Sabi pa dito, the purchase of equipment resulted in a liability. So kasabay ng pagbili natin ng purchase of pagbili natin ng equipment, nagkaroon din tayo ng liability of 10,000. Ibig sabihin, yung binili nating equipment is 30,000 yun. So, yun yung ma-add sa ating assets. So, 100 less plus 30,000 is we have 110,000 of total assets. Problem number 2. The owner started the business with a capital of 150,000. At the end of the year, the value of the claims of the creditor, ibig sabihin ng liability, is 80,000 and the owner's equity is 120,000 of the total assets. Now, ang question, how much is the total assets at the end of the year? So, yung given kanina na beginning of 150,000, ito yung initial investment. Sabi sa problem natin, at the end of the year, yung claims of the creditors na daw is 80 and the equity is 120,000. Again, yung given dito is the beginning. So, ignore natin itong 150. At the end of the year naman yung tanong. So, at the end of the year, meron tayong liabilities na 80, meron tayong equity na 120. Yung assets natin or total assets is 200,000 pesos. Question number 3. At the start of the year, the total assets of the business is 150,000 and its liabilities were 50,000. At the end of the year, the total assets were valued at 220,000 and the residual claim of the owner, ibig sabihin, yung kanyang capital is 150. How much is the amount of liabilities to the creditors at the end of the year? Again, since ang question is end of the year, i-ignore natin yung unang given. So, ang sabi sa ating problem, at the end of the year, the assets were valued at 220,000. Assets daw is 220,000. And the claim of the owner, which is the capital, is 150,000. Ang question is, magkano daw yung ating liability? So, sige, our basic question, liability, 70,000. Number 4, the assets of the business comprise of 100,000 cash and 900,000 land and building. The land and building have unpaid mortgage or which is the only liability of the business. So may utang pa daw yung ating land and building. The owner's equity is 650,000. How much is the business liability? So, sabi meron daw tayong cash na 100,000, meron tayong land and worth 900,000. So, assets natin is 1 million. Question natin is, kano daw yung liability? Sabi dito yung equity daw natin is 650,000. Therefore, yan yung liability natin is equal to 350,000 pesos. Number 5. Number 5, the owner's initial investment of the business is 100,000. If the business has 200,000 of revenue and 210,000 of expenses, how much is the owner's equity? So sabi sa problem, meron daw tayong beginning capital or initial investment of 100,000. Yun na gagamitin natin yung ating expanded equation. So meron tayong beginning capital na 100,000. Meron tayong revenue na 200,000 and meron tayong expense na 210,000. So, para makuha natin yung net income, again, revenue less expenses, malaking expense. So, sabihin nagkaroon tayo ng lugi or loss. So, kapag sinabing loss, 200 less 210,000, that is negative 10,000. Pero itong 10,000 na 'to, eto yung loss, net loss. Hindi ito yung tanong. Yung tanong sa atin is, how much is the owner's equity? We have the beginning capital of 100, ibawas natin yung loss na tayo. So, bawas natin, yun natin is 90,000 pesos. Number 6, initial investment of the owner in his business is 75,000. The end of the year, the total assets of the business amounted to 100,000, which consists of 50,000 cash and 50,000 equipment. The equipment has an unpaid balance of 20,000, the only liability of the business. How much is the owner's equity at the end of the year? Again, ang question sa atin is magkano daw yung ating equity at the end of the year. So, diretso na tayo dun sa given na at the end of the year, the total assets of the business amounted to 100,000. 100,000, sabi daw itong asset na consists of cash and equipment. And then, meron daw unpaid balance yung ating equipment, which is the only liability. 20. Equity. Equity natin is equal to 80,000. Number 7, the business is a servicing business. For the period, it collected 50,000 cash and still has receivable amounting to 25,000 for total services rendered. Question, how much is the business revenue for the period? So, yung question daw dito, magkano yung ating business revenue for the period? Ang sabi lang naman, nakakolekta tayo ng 50,000 and meron tayong sisingilin pa na 25,000. So, basic, i-add lang natin to. So, kung gusto niyo makita ang entry, ganito siya. Yung magiging entry natin. Nakakolekt na tayo ng 50,000 cash and meron tayong receivable. Another debit of accounts receivable of 25,000. Credit natin, lang lumabas, pero na-analyze natin na nagkaroon tayo ng revenue. or service revenue. So, credit natin yung service revenue natin of 75,000 peso. Next problem number 8. Sabi dito, the business is a trading business. For the period, it purchased goods for sale valued at 100,000. The goods were all sold for a total price of 120,000. For the sale, only 10% was received as down payment, 60% were later collected at the end of the year, 30% are still for collection. How much is the business revenue? So yung question dito, how much daw is the revenue? So based sa ating given, itong 100,000, ito yung tinatawag na cost of sale or cost of goods sold. And then the goods were sold for a total price of 120,000. Ibig sabihin ito yung sales price natin or ito yung tinatawag na revenue. Ito namang mga naka-percent na ito, pinakita niya lang kung paano na-collect yung 120,000. So, um, hindi natin yan gagamitin. So, dito na tayo diretso. Yung answer natin is 120,000 since ito yung sales price natin. Number 9, the total cash payments made by the business for the period amounted to 100,000. Yung question is, how much is the total OPEX or operating expense from these payments? So, marami pa ring nagkamali. First item, purchase of equipment for business use is an asset. Since gagamitin pa natin siya for a long period of time, ibig sabihin, asset muna siya. Hindi pa siya pwede maging expense. So next, salaries of the employees, 35,000. Water and electricity used in business, 10,000. And then taxes and licenses of the business of 5,000. So yung tatlo, 35 plus 10 plus 5 is equal to 50,000 pesos. So para sa ating theories, wait. Statement 1, an account has two sides, debit and credit. So that is correct. Statement 2, the debit is on the left-hand side and credit is on the right-hand side of the reader facing the account. Yes. So answer natin dyan is letter C. Both statements are correct. Number 2, which of the following is not a correct accounting equation? So letter A is correct. No? Bawas natin yung assets, liability. So, ang mali dito is letter D kasi dapat yung liabilities, i-add natin siya sa owner's equity para makuha yung asset. So, answer natin dyan, not correct is letter D. Number 3, one of the following does not report correctly the performance of the business. So sa ating number 3, letter A, yung tamang sagot, does not report correctly kasi sabi dito sa letter A, expenses is greater than revenue is equal to profit. So, pag mas malaki yung expenses natin kaysa sa revenue, dapat loss. So, kaya mali yung letter A. Number 4, which of the following is correct? Increase in asset, dapat debit yan. Letter B, increase in liability, dapat debit. Increase in revenue, dapat credit. So, letter D, decrease in owner's equity. Since owner's equity is credit yung kanyang normal balance, therefore, dapat nakadebit siya. So, answer is letter D. Number 5, which of the following is not correct? So, not correct. Again, letter C, increase in sales should be credit. Number 6, if the business paid the electricity consumed for 5,000 cash and is recorded in the book of accounts, which of the following is true? Ang answer natin is letter A. The value received is recorded as an expense. Letter B naman, hindi naman siya liability kasi nga nagbayad tayo ng cash. Increase in asset, hindi din nag-increase, nag-decrease pa nga yung asset natin. Letter D, decrease in accounts payable, walang nag-decrease, no? Kasi hindi natin siya inutang. So, ang answer natin is letter A. Number 7, the value received is 5,000 cash and the credit is the notes payable. Transaction can be best described as since notes, sabihin, nagbigay tayo or nag-issue tayo ng promissory note, kaya yung ating answer is letter B. Again, tayo yung nagkaroon ng utang. So, tayo yung nag-issue ng note. Issuance of 5,000 promissory note for equal amount of cash received. Number 8, the business rendered services to its customer, collectible next month. Which of the following could best describe the effect of the transaction? So, nag-render daw tayo ng service and collectible natin siya. Ibig sabihin, nag-increase yung ating asset kasi magkakaroon tayo ng entry to accounts receivable and credit to service income, which is the revenue. So both is an increase in asset and increase in revenue. Number 9, the business deposited to the bank its cash collection from outstanding accounts receivable from a customer. Which of the following could best describe the effect of the transaction? So, dineposit daw natin yung ating collection from outstanding account receivable of the customer. So, kung i-deposit natin, sabihin nagkaroon tayo ng entry, kung mag-entry tayo ng ating collection, magkakaroon tayo ng debit to cash and a credit to accounts receivable. Yan. Sabi dito sa question is, business deposited to the bank its cash collection from outstanding accounts receivable from a customer. So, yung ating entry, yan yung collection natin, at entry natin. Yun namang pag-deposit natin, i-debit cash in bank, deposit na natin sa bangko, and a credit to cash on hand para mas mag tayo sa ating account. Ganun. Nagkaroon tayo ng increase in asset and decrease in other asset. Number 10, the business consumed 1,000 of its supplies stocked in the storeroom. Which of the following could best describe the effect of the transaction? So kapag sinabing supplies, that is an asset. Sabi daw, nagamit na natin, na-consume na natin yung ating supplies. So kung na-consume na natin, ang magiging entry natin para dito is, debit tayo ng supplies expense and mag-credit tayo ng supplies. For that, then, again, ang sinabi, supplies daw, nagamit na natin. Kasi nung bumili tayo ng supplies, yung naging entry natin, debit tayo ng supplies, nag-credit tayo ng cash. So, since nagamit na natin, dapat magkaroon tayo ng expense account. Debit supplies expense. Hindi credit natin yung supplies para mabawasan kasi nga gamit na natin. So, eto na yun, lahat questions para sa ating prelim exam. I hope naintindihan nyo, and kung meron kayong mga questions, chat nyo lang sa ating GC. So, God bless.